Don't panic, but Disney has made some more changes to Lightning Lane Multipass, and unfortunately, these changes have made it a little bit harder to book those difficult to grab Lightning Lanes. Don't worry though, in today's video, we're going to break down what those changes are, and we're going to share with you some new workarounds that are going to help you get those rides you most want to ride when you're here at Walt Disney World. Hi-ho everybody, this is Rob with the Ear Scouts coming to you from Epcot. I've been here the last few days covering the brand new Flower and Garden Festival. It's the 30th anniversary of Flower and Garden. We'll have a video about that soon. While I was here though, I wanted to play around a little bit with Lightning Lane Multipass because I've been hearing from folks that Disney had made some changes, and some of the tips and tricks that we shared in previous videos were no longer working. Unfortunately, I am sad to report, I've been playing with the app for the last couple days. It is true. Some of the things that we recommended doing before are currently not functioning. The first thing that's changed is related to pinning rides to the top of your view when you're trying to book Lightning Lanes. This change actually happened a few weeks ago. I heard about it. People were letting me know through the comments that the pinning system didn't seem to be working. It's seeming now that that's actually a permanent change. If you're not familiar with pinning, I'm going to really quickly show you what I mean by that. If you go to the main menu and scroll down a little bit, you'll see today's plans. There's a little genie icon there. This is what lets you access the free Genie service. It lets you tell the app what rides you're most interested in. And whatever you tell the app you're interested in, it will pin those rides to the top of your tipboard screen. Now the good news is they still pin to the tipboard screen. That still works. What's changed is that when you're modifying a Lightning Lane, on that screen, it no longer pins those rides to the top. In order to explain why this is kind of a big deal, I'm going to give you a scenario. Let's say that we're trying to book a Lightning Lane like Remy or Frozen, where there are currently no Lightning Lanes available. What I could do before is I would be able to modify any of my existing Lightning Lanes, and then when I refreshed my view, it would go back and look to see if any Lightning Lanes have come back online. And if I had those rides pinned right there to the top, it would be very easy for me to notice that they had a time available and tap in quickly and grab them. The reason it was important for me to tap in quickly is because there are so many other people doing this exact same thing at the exact same time. If you don't tap in super quickly, it is very likely that someone else will have already grabbed that tough to grab Lightning Lane. So now we gotta scroll through all of those Lightning Lanes to see if the one we're looking for is available. They're in alphabetical order. So guess where Remy is? Way down at the bottom. I was never able to scroll down and tap in quickly enough to grab the time slot. So if you're aiming for a ride that is not currently available, there is a very little chance that you're going to be able to grab it using this modify view anymore. Unfortunately, the other change I've got to tell you about makes this situation even worse, and that is that they've taken away what I like to call the tap in, tap out method, at least for these tough to grab rides. If you're not familiar with the tap in, tap out method, I'm going to show you really quickly how it used to work. So previously, if you tapped in on a ride and you weren't quick enough, the next screen would say, I'm sorry, that time is no longer available, but you could tap back out and it would bring you back to the exact same view. And guess what? That time block is still showing up there, which allows you to tap in again. And each time you would tap in, it would go looking again. It would say, hey, is there any time available for this ride? And if you were lucky, you would get a new time. Even though that first one was gone, you'd grab another one, and you wouldn't have to worry about tapping in quickly because you essentially just did the tap. This method was super helpful, especially when you weren't able to tap in quickly enough. And let's think about it. With this new change, that's the big problem. Being able to tap in quickly is much more difficult when you got to scroll through everything. So that was how it worked before. Let me show you what happens now if you tap in on a ride and there are no longer any Lightning Lane times available. Instead of going to the next screen, it shows you this little pop-up error message. And how do you get rid of that error message? By clicking the button that says Start Over. And when you start over, it refreshes the view, meaning that that time slot that you had finally been able to get is no longer there anymore. You can't tap in and tap out anymore. So that is a really unfortunate change. The silver lining here is that this only applies to lightning lanes that are completely out of time slots. If there are still time slots available, it's not going to give you that error message. It'll still let you tap in and tap out and hopefully get a really good return time. It's only when the lightning lane is not available that you're going to have this issue. Everything we've been talking about so far has been related to modifying lightning lanes, but what about booking the lightning lane initially? For that, we typically use the tipboard screen. And the good news is you can still pin those rides to the top of your tipboard view. That part still works. Here's the downside. When you initially book a lightning lane, there is an extra step involved. You have to tell the system who all is in your party that you want to book that lightning lane for, and then you click on continue. Unfortunately, when you take this time to do this extra step, in most cases, that lightning lane is then gone. Someone else has already grabbed it. When you modify, it just modifies using the party that was already booked on the initial lightning lane, so that avoided this problem. But when you're initially booking, you are going to have this extra step. I have some good news, however. It does still do that same thing. If there's no lightning lanes available, it's going to give you that error message and it's going to say start over. But watch what happens when we click start over on this view. It doesn't go away. We can scroll down again and click continue. Now, in most cases, that's just going to mean the error message is going to pop up because there's still nothing available. But you can repeat this process. Just keep generating the error message, click start over. Generate that error message, click start over. And eventually, if you're lucky, another time is gonna pop up and you're gonna be able to grab it, because this is essentially the new version of tap in, tap out. Now, Disney may change this at any time. It's possible that they'll make the start over truly start you over from this view as well. But for right now, at least, you can still use a version of the tap in, tap out method here on the initial booking screen. The good news is I was able to successfully book pretty much whatever I was aiming for using this technique. The bad news is it definitely took longer, because let's think about it. Not only did I have to get lucky once in order to be able to get to this second screen, then I had to get lucky again by being able to tap through at the right time and grab a second lightning lane slot that came available. It's like 2 hoops to jump through instead of 1. That said, I was able to do it, and it didn't take me too terribly long when I was doing this earlier in the day. Later in the day is definitely a different story. You can be tapping for a very long time and not get anywhere. But earlier in the day, around lunchtime, I was able to grab Frozen in about 14 minutes. So it is still doable early in the day. That's why it's going to be really important that you get those key rides done as quickly as you possibly can. The other piece of good news is that some of our old modify tricks do still work. For example, if you were trying to back up a time for a lightning lane that you already have booked, that still works the same as always, because let's think about it. When we're in that modify view, that lightning lane that we're modifying is already pinned to the top. That's where it's going to stay. So the fact that you can't pin rides anymore doesn't affect you if you're just trying to back up the time for the ride you already have. It is, of course, possible that all these changes that Disney has made, they could take away tomorrow. This could all go back to normal any day now. I don't know if you remember, but early on with the lightning lane system, pinning didn't work in the tipboard view. It worked in Modify, but not tipboard. Now that's reversed. It's working in tipboard and not in the Modify view. So who knows? Maybe this is just a bug that Disney is going to fix. Maybe this error message is just something they're trying out. But I thought it was important, if you've got a Disney trip planned, to know that this is currently how things are working. Over the next couple of months, we are going to redo all of our different Lightning Lane videos so that you can see how it's like to go through a park day with these changes in place. Are we still able to book everything we want to book in all the parks here at Walt Disney World? Well, in the next couple months, we're going to find out. So if you want to see those videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring that bell. That way you'll be notified when they come out. I'm pretty hopeful though. When I first saw these changes, I kind of freaked out a little bit. I had a mild panic attack. I was like, how are we going to be able to book rides? But in these couple days I've been playing with it, I've been able to get what I've been aiming for. It's still been possible to do. So I am hopeful that in those videos we're going to find it's not as bad as it may initially seem. Other than those changes we just covered though, everything else that's in our existing strategy guides would still apply to your trip. And I would actually say that it's more important than ever that you have a really good strategy going into these parks, because you want to make sure you get those most difficult to book rides done early in the day so you don't have to deal with any of these problems we're talking about in this video. At Magic Kingdom, it's going to be Tiana's Bayou Adventure, Peter Pan's Flight, and Jungle Cruise. To a lesser extent, I would say Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean would be good to book earlier as well. Here at Epcot, it's going to be Remy and Frozen. Those are the two rides that are most difficult to grab here. The rest are still going to be pretty easy to get for the rest of the day. At Animal Kingdom, you're pretty much fine. You're not going to run into these issues there. So if you did want to prioritize though, I would say Kilimanjaro Safaris and Navi River Journey would be two you'd probably want to book earlier in the day. Over at Hollywood Studios, the big one is Slinky Dog Dash. Pre-book that one if there's any way you possibly can, and if you can't get it, you definitely want to get that one as quickly as you possibly can. After that, I'd say Rock 'n' Roller Coaster, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and to a lesser extent, I would say Toy Story Mania and Twilight Zone Tower of Terror would be good to grab earlier in the day. Well, I hope this information has been helpful to you, especially if you've got a trip planned in the near future, so this stuff didn't take you by surprise. Before we go, I want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon family. Thank you all so much for making videos like this possible. If you'd like to join them and get access to exclusive bonus content, head on over to patreon.com/earscouts. And of course, I want to thank all of you for watching. Until next time, don't forget to think happy thoughts, everybody. We'll see you again real soon.